बहुत बहुत सबको प्रस्तुत होने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। और आज हम ब्रिज जी के साथ अगला अध्याय की शुरू करेंगे। ब्रिज जी कौन सा है अब?
अब अभी
9 है ना?
नहीं, चैप्टर 9 को ही आज कंप्लीट करेंगे। वी विल कंटिन्यू विद
हाँ
चैप्टर 9।
हाँ, तो चैप्टर 9 को ब्रिज जी अब उसकी व्याख्या करेंगे और मुझे आशा है कि आप सब लोगों को बहुत पसंद आएगा। तो अभी ब्रिज जी से प्रार्थना है कि इसको शुरू करें।
नमस्कार जी सभी को।
धन्यवाद।
नमस्कार जी।
नमस्कार
Happy to see that the gathering is increasing, and so I will today maybe I will just start in English because we have Purna and Kalyani ji also. So in our last episode we had covered up to Shlok 19 of chapter 9. So just giving a brief recap of these 19 shlok.
नमस्कार जी।
You want to say namaskar?
So first 3 shloka of chapter 9.
नमस्कार कर चुके हैं।
तो फर्स्ट 3 श्लोका में भगवान ने लॉर्ड कृष्णा टोल्ड अर्जुना that I am going to impart you the knowledge which is very very secret. It is very very difficult to understand because this knowledge is hidden within you. Then in next 3 shloka from 4 to 6 he described what this gyan is. यह जो ज्ञान उन्होंने दिया, this knowledge what he gave in these 3 shloka is not a knowledge about the world or about this materialistic world. This knowledge is the spiritual knowledge. Knowledge about Atma, Paramatma, Bhagwan, Brahm. This knowledge is about that, basically. And he told in this 3 shlokas, basically, very clearly that the sun, the moon, the entire universe, all the stars, they are all, and this moving and non-moving people and objects, whatever are there in this world, they are not different from God. They are part of God. Even the non-perishable, जो imperishable items हैं, they are also being provided by the Lord. And the God is everything. He is limitless. He is infinite. He is residing in the in the body of everybody as soul. So this is in 3 shlokas. He just gave in brief what Bhagwan is, what is this knowledge is for. And then in next 3 shlokas from 7 to 10, he told some divine glories, some of the divine powers of Bhagwan. And these divine powers are basically that under the supervision of Bhagwan, my Trigunmi Maya, it creates the entire world, the entire living and non-living beings. And at the end of he told this that at the beginning of Kalp, he defined the Kalp. And as we know that Kalp is basically Brahma's one day, the life period of Brahma's one day. At the beginning of Kalp, this whole universe is created by the divine power, what is called his Trigunmi Maya. And at the end of the Kalp, this whole universe again merges back into the same Prakriti, the same Maya. So, and this circle keeps on rotating. When again the Kalp starts, again this universe is created. When the Kalp ends, again this universe is merged into the same Prakriti. And when he did not use the word pralaya, he just said it merges. And the same souls, they are created again as a result of their accumulated karmas in the form of causal body. So it is not that some new creation is created. It is the same living beings, same non-living beings who are created from kalp to kalp as a result of their past karmas. So and after describing all this, then he described in 11 to 15 some different type of people who basically remember God or worship God. First, he said there are some people who are of little knowledge, whom he has called that they have limited intelligence, and they are engaged in the attainment of materialistic pleasures, the pleasures of their senses, and that's why they cannot recognize recognize the God. He is in his human form. He may be in any form, because first he said that I am Nirakar. He also said that I have infinite forms also. But the people who have little knowledge and they remain engaged in these worldly desires to fulfill their desires, they cannot recognize me. And then he said there are other people who are of Asuri nature, who are Dominic nature, who do not believe in existence of God, in fact. So then he said, then there are some great souls who have divine nature, who have Devi Prakriti. And that they know that God is the creator, he is the sustainer, and he is the destroyer. So therefore they do bhakti of Bhagwan and they remain engaged in his bhakti. Then he said in the end in slok 15 that there are also men who are basically Gyan Yogi, who have got this knowledge. They know that God is everything and they remain absorbed in his bhakti. So they know that there is nothing else except Brahm. And then from verse 16 to 19, he again defined his basically a universal form, that I am present in everything. The Bhagwan is the father, mother, as well as grandfather of every living being in this universe. So Lord alone is the cause as well as effect of this universe. The whole universe is the cause and effect also is he. This is what he described. So we had done this up to the verse 19. And now we will move next further from slok 20 onwards. Now, in verse 20 to 25, basically, Bhagwan is going to tell that jo bhakt hain, there are different another type of people he will describe. So first in verse 20 and 21, he describes that there are some other people who believe in these Vedas. The first part of Vedas, you see, have three parts. One is, the first part is called the Karma Kand, where all these rituals are described. Rituals are described to gain your desires, to fulfill your desires. So these rituals, they are the first part. Second part is called the Upasana Kand, the Bhakti Kand. And third is the Gyan Kand. So there are people who are learned, who have read this first part of Vedas, and they believe in this Karma Kand. So they do all sorts of these rituals. And when they perform these rituals, but with attachment to their desires, they want to fulfill their desires. And for that, they do this yajna, the havan, and they worship the devtas who provide them these materialistic desires. And once they get this materialistic desires, so they go to their plane of existence. That's what Bhagwan describes. And when they go there, they enjoy the fruits of their good actions, the Vedic rituals. And when that result is finished, then they again return back on this earth. They take the birth again. So this means he says that these are learning people, but they do not know that meeting these desires, they cannot give them permanent happiness. Those meeting desires again give them temporary pleasures. And when their all these good deeds what they are doing, they are called again a punya work. Because of that, they go to heaven. Heaven is what basically they call it Indralok or Swarglok. So that is how they go to there, enjoy all those pleasures, whatever they have been wishing for. Some of the desires they meet in this life itself. Whatever they cannot meet, in that case, they enjoy those desires by reaching those plane of experience of heaven. So and in this verse, basically in verse 20, he has used the word Somapa. There is a ritual called Som Yagya. In Som Yagya, and some people misinterpret it, क्योंकि उसमें कहा गया है कि सोमरस जो बाद में पीते हैं, इस श्लोक में जो कहा गया है कि जो ये यज्ञ करते हैं, हवन करते हैं, उसके बाद और जो उससे जो अवशेष बचता है, एंड दे टेक दैट सोमरस, तो सम पीपल कॉल इट कि भगवान ने तो कहा कि आप सोमरस पीजिए, कि आप सोमरस को कई लोग डिफाइन करते हैं कि ये शराब है, तो इसको थोड़ा सा क्लैरिफाई करना जरूरी है. दैट्स व्हाई आई सेड कि जो एक सोम यज्ञ होता है, दे डू दिस रिचुअल कॉल सोम यज्ञ, एंड यज्ञ देयर इज अ प्लांट कॉल्ड वाइन प्लांट, VINA. उस प्लांट्स के जो है एक बेल है, उसका जो जूस है वो भगवान को अर्पित किया जाता है. So that juice of this plant is offered to Lord in that Som Yagya. And उस यज्ञ में whatever avshesh, whatever is left over, they take it as prasad. So that's why, and when they take this prasad, they go to the lok of Indralok and enjoy their fruits. So that was the real meaning. So it was not that some people always give different definitions. So that was the real purpose of this thing. And when they do this ritual, basically, all their sins are destroyed. You see, whenever you do all these rituals, you want to destroy your sins, whatever sins you have done, and you gain some punya. So because of that punya only, you enjoy those fruits. फिर भगवान कहते हैं कि जब ultimately you have to come back to this earth. When you have exhausted all your good work, you are sent back to this earth. So these Vedic rituals are not a means of moksha. They can provide you your worldly desires, which give you temporary pleasures, but you have to come back basically again. So, and this, इसका जो हम अभी 2 श्लोकों का थोड़ा सा डिस्कस करें डिटेल के अंदर, कि Bhagavan has given this message to everybody that if you perform these rituals to fulfill your desires, then this result is, as we said, it is a temporary result, and you have to come back on this earth. Because these devtas, they are like a minister or officer, and they get all their powers from the Supreme Lord, from Bhagwan only. And it is because of the Bhagwan power that they are able to fulfill your desires. So, but the people who believe in this Karma Kand portion, they do not know this. They do not know that it is basically Bhagwan who is fulfilling their desires. And that's why they worship this Lord Indra, the rain god, Lord Agni, the god of fire, and Kuber, the god of wealth, etc. So they basically, and all these results, whatever you get, you enjoy this through your senses. Like if you have, if any, if you worship the fire god, you enjoy the results through your eyesight, because he is the devta of eyesight. Lord, the fire, god of fire, is the devta of eyesight. So like that, every sense organ has its specific devta. And whatever devta you worship, you enjoy the results of that through that particular organ. So they all function under the power and control of Supreme Lord. In fact, if you read Ramcharitmanas, वहां भी तुलसीदास ने कहा है, स्वर्गहु स्वल्प अंत दुखदाई, that attainment of heaven is temporary, and even there the sorrows do not leave us. It's like a football game. The ball keeps on moving from one corner of the field to the other corner. So similarly, Bhagwan ki jo maya hai, that keeps us moving, that keeps our soul moving from different worlds. The soul can move towards God realization in human form only. It's only in the human form that we can turn our soul towards inside, towards the spiritual side. So we should always strive basically for God realization. And then he says that this infinite bliss, it is necessary that you worship Paramatma, Bhagwan, and engage in the practice of attaining knowledge. Only then we can be free from the cycle of birth and death. And same message, of course, Lord Rama gave to his Ayodhya people. कि बड़े भाग मानुष तनु पाया, सुर दुर्लभ सब ग्रंथ ही गावा. ये जो मानव जन्म है, is very difficult to obtain. This is a jewel, like a jewel in the whole creation of the world. So when a human being, and this purpose of the Vedas, when we say there are three Vedas, three portion of the Vedas, Karam Kand and Upasana Kand and then the Gyan Kand. So this is a particular order has been defined. And this is the same order in our life also, that first we follow our materialistic desires. When we get our desires fulfilled and we realize that it can't give us permanent or paramanand, then we slowly move towards भगवान की भक्ति. और जब हम भगवान की भक्ति में मूव करते हैं, then slowly you turn towards gaining the knowledge. So this is how the transformation takes place. So that's why this Karam Kand is a very important portion defined in Vedas. So it is a step forward, it is a stepping stone towards attaining God realization. So at least because once you do this Karam Kand, it prevents you from doing any sinful activity. कि at least कोई किसी पाप कर्म से आप धन नहीं कमाएंगे. So that's why this Karam Kand portion of Vedas is defined first, because man gets attracted and that's why he starts indulging in this portion. And when he knows, when he realizes after doing all this that still he is unhappy, he again falls into the problem. So then he moves towards भगवान की भक्ति. जब भक्ति में जो पड़ता है, ultimately भगवान की कृपा होती है, and then he starts trying to get this knowledge. So this is basically is the order in which this Vedas have defined, and this is the same order what we also follow in our life, in fact. So after describing all this, then in next verse 22, Bhagwan says that those who are my exclusive devotees, like Ananya Bhakt, unflinching devotees, without any selfish motive, I take the responsibility of protecting them. This verse 22 is a very important verse. It comes in the middle of Gita. If you see, there are 18 chapters, and we are talking of 9th chapter, which is in the middle of Gita. And this verse 22 is exactly in the middle of Gita. So that's why this slok is called like a diamond in the necklace of Gita. So it is a very important slok. I will just recite this slok, and you should also recite this. In fact, Ananyaschintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam योगक्षेमम वहाम्यहम. भगवान ने इस श्लोक में योगक्षेम वर्ड यूज किया है. एक वर्ड है जिसका बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट मीनिंग है. So what God is saying here is that who are my exclusive devotees, I provide them what they lack. Yog means whatever they don't have, I provide them. And then he says kshemam, I protect what they already possess. So just see, that I provide them what they lack, and I also protect what they already possess. So this is the promise what Bhagwan is telling. मेरे जो devotees हैं, I take care of them like a mother takes care of a child. What mother does? The mother gives her child milk at time. She gives him bath at the time. She takes care of all her needs, protects him from everything. And the child also knows, because he is fully dependent. He knows, as long as I am in arms of my mother, I am safe. So in the same way, Bhagavan says, if you consider me as your complete shelter, I take care of you like a mother. I protect you what you have, and I provide you what you don't have whenever you need it, without even asking. So this is the promise what Bhagavan has made in this verse. And then he further says in the same verse, Tesham nityabhiyuktanam, those who always absorbed in me, they are always engaged in my Naiya Bhakti. I am really taking care of them like a mother. So we should always consider God as our ultimate refuge, ultimate shelter. He will take care of you in everything. So ये सब बताने के बाद, now we move to the verse 23. In 23, he again describes that there are some people who do worship of the Devtas. In fact, he has already described this before, but he is now describing it in little more details. Okay, there are people who worship other Devtas with devotion, but in fact, they don't know that they worship me only, because they do not recognize me. That's why because they get their desires fulfilled very easily by doing all these penances. But since he does not recognize me, they do not worship me, they worship these devtas. And these devtas, they provide them all these luxuries, as we said, because of the power of the God only. And then he says that whosoever, the divine devtas themselves, they are not free from samsara. Therefore, if they are not free from samsara, how can they provide the liberation to them? So he says that those who have gained the Tattva Gyan, gained the knowledge, they worship Parmeshwar, they worship me only. And when their devotion reaches the level of perfect devotion, then he can gain my Paramdham, he can gain me, he can attain me. इसमें श्रीमद् भागवत में एक एग्जाम्पल दिया गया है. There is an example given over there that when we water the root of a tree, its trunk, branches, leaves, twigs, flowers, they all get nourished. And similarly, when we put the food in our mouth, the food provides nourishment to all the parts of our body. So similarly, when we worship Bhagwan, we get in that worship, the worship of Devtas is also included. This means there are so many Devtas, you get everything. You get the full benefit if you worship Bhagwan. Whereas if you worship Devta, you only get the benefit of what that Devta can provide. Like if you water the roots, it provides nourishment to the whole tree. So in the same way, if you worship Bhagwan, Bhagwan will provide you everything what you need. It will basically provide you all the nourishment, whatever you require. And if you pour water, say, on the leaves, on the flowers, the water does not reach the root properly, so the tree is not nourished properly. So in the same way, since if you are worshipping, if you are doing the puja of the devtas, you will not get the full benefit of it. The full benefit you get only if you worship Bhagwan. So this has been explained with these examples in Srimad Bhagavat. That was in Shlok, verse 24. Then we move to 25. भगवान इसमें कह रहे हैं, he is describing now a universal law. The universal law is that you get what you desire. What you have been thinking of intensely. An old saying, of course, you know, you reap what you sow. आप जैसा बोते हैं वही फसल आपको मिलती है, वही वैसे ही फसल मिलेगी. So when you worship these devatas, you go to their plane of experience, you go to heaven, Indralok or Swarglok or whatever you may call it. If you worship ancestors like Pitar, like you do some Shraddh and Pind, you go to their lok, called Pitrilok. Pitrilok is still better than this world where we live. So you enjoy their that loka. But if you worship Bhut, and some people worship even Pret and Bhut also, or Rakshas also. So those reach their loka and they basically remain there. So this is what he has described in verse 25. And however, the highest devotee hai, who firmly believe in me, who does my puja, he reaches the highest. And that highest abode is my supreme abode, my Paramdham. So this is what he has described there. So this universal law, once you recognize that God is everything, the result will be limitless. It will be infinite result. You will be getting liberated from the cycle of this birth and death. Liberation का मतलब क्या है? That you will get Paramanand. You will always be in Anand. In fact, the meaning of moksha, meaning of liberation is nothing. That you are liberated from this, all your sorrows. You will always remain, you will get divine bliss. You will always remain in Paramanand. So this is basically the meaning. And how you get this Paramanand? Bhagwan says here in one of the scripture it is mentioned that how when you get it immediately. When you get the knowledge, you get it immediately. Like you know the sugar, how do you know the sugar is sweet? Only when you taste it, you immediately come to know the sugar is sweet. In the same way, when you get this knowledge, you immediately gets liberated. You immediately achieve that status of divine bliss. So it is just automatic. जैसे ही आपने sugar अपनी जीभ पर रखी, you know sugar is sweet. So in the same way, when this knowledge is attained, you immediately recognize and you remain in divine bliss. आपके सभी दुखों का अंत हो जाता है immediately. This is what is the meaning given in this verse 25. Now in next verses 26, 27 and 28, Bhagwan again describes the value of bhakti. कि भक्ति की महिमा क्या है? He will describe that worship of Bhagwan is very easy as compared to worship of Devtas. For worshipping Devtas, you have to do lot of, yajna, havan, you have to give them lot of offerings that are required to be given. So Bhagwan Shri Krishna says that in my bhakti is very, very simple. No such sacrifices are required. So that's what he is saying in verse 26. Patram pushpam phalam toyam यो में भक्तिया प्रयच्छति. कि कोई भी भक्त प्रेम से, एनी डिवोटी जो प्रेम से मेरे को कुछ भी अर्पण करता है, he can with love and devotion whatever he offers to me, be it a leaf, be it a flower, a fruit or even water. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. Toyam means water. Whatever with love and devotion a devotee offers to me, anything, it may be anything, leaf, water, he says, I appear in my human form, in Sagun form, in Sakar form. He can appear in any form, anytime, anywhere. He says, I appear and eat that whatever you have given. I accept that in my personal, in my human form, my sakar form. So but there are only two conditions what he has described. The two conditions are purity of heart. आपका मन शुद्ध होना चाहिए. And second is true devotion. True devotion क्या है? Without any selfish motive. सच्चा प्रेम, वही सच्ची भक्ति है. सिर्फ ये दो कंडीशन भगवान ने कही हैं. And once you have this, you meet these two conditions, भगवान showers his grace, his कृपा उस पर बरसती है. So, but एक चीज और है. If you offer anything which you have earned by illegal means or by wicked means, that offering does not reach Bhagwan. In fact, that will not give you the desired result. It is still considered a pap. Because he is now giving this advice to Arjuna, who is his devotee. When you become a devotee and you have full faith and shraddha in God, you cannot do any wrong work, cannot do any illegal means. आजकल तो हम सब सोचते हैं, लोग कितना कुछ कमाते हैं, सोचते हैं चलो ठीक है यार, इसमें से 50% भगवान को अर्पण कर देते हैं, हमारे पाप धुल जाएंगे. It is not so. So anything which you earn illegally by cheating others and you offer it to God, God does not accept it. You may think I have offered, you feel happy for some time, but it goes waste. So that's very, very important that you should offer what you have your own. So that's what basically. अब इसमें अगर आप देखें, हमने आप सबने जो है कि भोग आरती एक होती है. When you have any puja in your house or in this thing, we always when you offer भगवान एक कुछ भी जो है कि सत्यनारायण की आरती होती है, उसके बाद हम भगवान को भोजन अर्पित करते हैं, एक भोग आरती गाई जाती है. उस भोग आरती के कुछ जो स्टैंजर है, आई विल जस्ट रीड, जो इम्पोर्टेंट है. भगवान उसमें आरती में आता है, भिलिनी के बेर सुदामा के तंदुल, रुचि रुचि भोग लगाओ मेरे मोहन, आओ भोग लगाओ मेरे मोहन. दुर्योधन का मेवा त्यागो, साग विदुर घर खायो मेरे मोहन, आओ भोग लगाओ मेरे मोहन. आप ही की वस्तु आप ही के अर्पण, आप ही की वस्तु आप ही के अर्पण, कर कृपा अपनाओ मेरे मोहन. So that is the feeling, that भाव कि जो भी मैं अर्पण कर रहा हूँ ये आप ही की वस्तु है, मेरे पास तो कुछ भी नहीं है. हम हो सकता है या भोग आरती हमने कितनी बार गाई होगी, ऐसे ही हम ओम जय जगदीश हरे गाते हैं. उसके अंदर अगर आप देखेंगे, पूरा का पूरा ज्ञान उस आरती में भरा हुआ है. और इस आरती के अंत में एक स्टैंजा आता है, तन मन धन सब कुछ है तेरा, सब कुछ है तेरा, तेरा तुझको अर्पण क्या लागे मेरा. तो सब कुछ, ये भाव बहुत जरूरी है. ये भक्ति, यही भक्ति की एक परिकाष्ठा है कि आपके मन में अगर यह भाव है कि मेरा तन मन धन सब कुछ आपका है, मेरा कुछ नहीं लगता है, तो मैं आपको क्या अर्पण करूं. तो भगवान कहते हैं मेरे को सिर्फ आपका प्यार चाहिए, आपकी डिवोशन चाहिए, भक्ति चाहिए. दैट्स इनफ फॉर मी. नॉट लाइक you worship devta, you do som yagya, you do havan, you do so much of offering into that. All this is not necessary in my devotion. So this is a very important point what has to be learned by everybody. तो फिर आगे श्लोक 27 में कहते हैं कि whatever you do, इसको फिर फर्दर एक्सप्लेन कर रहे हैं. Whatever you do by your body, by your mind, by your senses or by thoughts, by your intellect or action or speech, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer in the holy fire of Havan and Yajna, whatever charity you give, and whatever tap, whatever austerity you perform, do all these with the mental thought of offering them as a gift to God. Okay, this is all for Bhagwan only. आप जो भी कर्म करते हैं, इसका आगे एक्सप्लेनेशन है. Whatever work you do, just surrender this, offer it to the Lord. तो we think कि जो वर्शिप है, जो भगवान की भक्ति है, मतलब है that we can do भगवान की जो पूजा है मंदिर में जाकर ही कर सकते हैं. We have to go to a temple to do the worship of God. Bhagwan says no. The devotion, my devotion is not confined to the temple room. This pure devotion is that you get engaged in every moment of our life. We keep in our mind, God is within us. That is the real worship. Not necessary to go to temple, go here and there. एक संत कबीर का बड़ा अच्छा दोहा है इसके बारे में. संत कबीर ने लिखा है, जहाँ जहाँ चलूं करूं परिक्रमा, जो जो करूं सो सेवा, जब सोऊं करूं दंडवत, जाने देव न दूजा. He says, wherever I walk, I feel that I am doing parikrama of the temple of God. Whatever work I do, I consider it as the service to God. When I sleep, I meditate upon God, that I am following the orders of God. जो नारद का एक भक्ति का दर्शन शास्त्र है, even in that it is said that devotion means offering all your actions to God. So that sort of devotion is required. That does not require big efforts. It's only the attitude of your mind. माइंड की में जो आपके जो थॉट्स हैं, जो विचार हैं, उसी को सिर्फ जो है आपको चेंज करना है और कुछ नहीं करने का है. फिर भगवान कहते हैं कि he advises Arjuna that when you renounce the fruits of action, he says you have to renounce the fruits of actions but not the actions. भगवान ने कभी नहीं कहा कि कर्म त्याग दो. आप कहेंगे ये कर्म का जब फल नहीं मुझे त्यागना है, why should not I even renounce the action itself? भगवान says no. जो निष्काम कर्म का उन्होंने उपदेश दिया है शुरू से, पहले in 6 chapters he told Arjuna कर्म योगा, निष्काम कर्म. कर्म योगा क्या है? निष्काम कर्म. तो निष्काम कर्म does not mean that you renounce the actions. You only renounce the fruit of actions, and that is a real tyag, real renunciation, and that opens the door to liberation. He further says in verse 28 that by surrendering all your actions to me, you will be freed from the bondage of all your good and bad karmas. So thus, by uniting your mind with Bhagwan through detachment to the fruits of action, you will attain my Param Dham. So many people now will interpret it differently. Some people think, as I said before, that even if I earn my money by doing some wrong deeds and then offer it, a part of it to God, so my sins will be washed away. It is not that. He is telling Arjuna that who is his devotee, and when someone is a true devotee, he won't do any wrong action. And when Lord Krishna had mentioned here is that surrender the fruits of actions to Bhagwan and you will attain me. Now, so therefore, Nishkam Karam जो है, to understand it properly is very, very important. कि अपना कर्म करिए, क्योंकि you cannot do any work without having any desires. Some people will always interpret, oh, इच्छाओं को का त्याग कर दो. भैया बिना डिजायर्स के, बिना इच्छा के आप कोई कर्म कर ही नहीं सकते. He never said that renounce your desires. Only thing is that your desires, once you get fulfill your desires, you have to be satisfied, accept whatever comes as a prasad. And this is how your mind will get purified. So you have to, जो आप कर्म कर रहे हैं वो कर्म कर रहे हैं टू प्योरीफाई योर माइंड. यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग योर माइंड टू attain Bhagwan, to get Param Anand, to get divine bliss. So all your karmas should be oriented toward that. And what is the meaning of purity of mind? We always been talking, आपका mind शुद्ध होना चाहिए. Mind has to be pure. Pure from what? It has to be pure from your likes and dislikes, from your rag and dvesh. Rag is likes and dvesh is dislike. So this is how you have to purify your mind from your likes and dislikes. All our problems in the life are due to these two factors only, राग एंड द्वेष. अगर हमारा राग और द्वेष हमें नहीं होगा तो हमारी सारी प्रॉब्लम, सारे दुख दूर दूर हो जाएंगे. सो दैट इज बेसिकली दैट दिस राग एंड द्वेष को हमने अपने मन को राग एंड द्वेष से प्योरीफाई करना है, शुद्ध करना है. दैट्स व्हाट इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. फिर कुछ लोग सोचते हैं यार भगवान भी बड़ा पार्शियल है, कि भगवान के अंदर भी राग और द्वेष है, कि वो अपने भक्त की तो जो है कि उसकी तो ध्यान रखता है, उसका तो योगक्षेम करता है जो उसका भक्त है, जो उसके भक्त नहीं है ही डज नॉट केयर फॉर देम. तो इसका जो उत्तर है भगवान अगले श्लोक 29 में दे रहे हैं. भगवान कहते हैं इन वर्स 29, समोहम सर्वभूतेषु न मे द्वेष्यो अस्ति न प्रिय ये भजन्ति तु माम भक्तया मयि ते तेषु चाप्यहम्. भगवान कहते हैं कि हे अर्जुन, I do not discriminate against anyone. Everybody is subject to the law of karma. God does not hate any creature or like any creature. Everybody is equal to me. I am neither inimical nor partial to anyone. I bestow my grace equally on everything, on everybody. जो भगवान की जो ग्रेस है, भगवान की जो कृपा है, इट्स लाइक ए विंड एंड सनलाइट. Wind blows everywhere. Sunlight gives energy to everybody. So, yet, उसके बावजूद भी many people, intelligent people, are confused because at the time of crisis, when they are in distress, they still blame Bhagwan. Oh, Bhagwan is responsible for that. So Bhagwan says that every person reaps the fruit of his thoughts, fruit of his actions. One reaps what you sow. So karmic law is same for everybody. And then he further says in this verse that those who remain engaged in my loving devotion, I reside in them and they reside in me. मैं उनमें रहता हूँ और वे मुझ में रहते हैं. They are not different from me and I am not different from them. So मैं और भगवान एक हैं. भगवान हमसे अलग नहीं है. मैं, भगवान और मैं सब बराबर हैं. दिस इज व्हाट ही हैज कन्वेड. यही इन्होंने एक्चुअली कहा है कि चौथे अध्याय में भी जो 11वां श्लोक है, देयर आल्सो दिस वाज डिस्क्राइब्ड दैट लाइक रेन वाटर इट फॉल्स इक्वली अपॉन द अर्थ. ए ड्रॉप दैट फॉल्स ऑन ए कॉर्न फील्ड इट प्रोड्यूसेस ग्रेन. द ड्रॉप दैट फॉल्स ऑन ए डेजर्ट बुश इट प्रोड्यूसेस थॉर्न, कांटे. And the drop that falls in a gutter, it generates dirty water. And the drop that falls in an oyster, it becomes a pearl. So the raindrops are not responsible for the results. So Bhagwan says, it all depends upon the nature, the prakriti of the person who is receiving that my grace. My grace is available to everybody. प्रकृति की जितनी भी सुविधाएं हैं, जितनी भी यहाँ पर धन दौलत है, वो सब के लिए इक्वली अवेलेबल हैं. किसी को मिलती हैं और किसी को नहीं मिलती, ये आपके कर्मों पर डिपेंड कर रहा है. दिस इज व्हाट ही इज ट्राइंग टू से, दैट आई एम इक्वली डिस्पोज्ड टुवर्ड्स एवरीबॉडी. So for me, everybody is equal. Everybody is under the law of karma. And then in verse 30 and 31, Bhagwan describes also one very important thing. कि जो मेरी भक्ति है, my true devotion, एक सभी के जो उसके जो पाप हैं, वो पूरे पाप को धो डालती है. So what he says is that even the most sinful person, once he resolves to worship me with single-minded, loving devotion, is regarded as a saint, regarded as a righteous person, because he has made the right choice, he has made the right resolution, and soon he also becomes a saint. So he says, क्षिप्रम भवति धर्मात्मा, वो शीघ्र ही धर्मात्मा हो जाता है. That know this truth for sure. भगवान कहते हैं अर्जुन को, अश्योर कर रहे हैं फिर दोबारा से. Know this truth for sure that after taking my shelter, if you have full faith and devotion in me, you take my shelter, my devotee never falls. Even a great sinner becomes a virtuous person once he take refuge in me. So the devotion of bhakti for Bhagwan is so powerful that it can reform even the most evil person. And there are various examples in scriptures. और आप सबने महर्षि वाल्मीकि का एग्जाम्पल सुना होगा. That महर्षि वाल्मीकि was a thief, was a wicked person before that. And his guru was telling him to chant Rama Rama. He was not able to chant. So then he told him, okay, you chant Mara Mara, because he knew when he will chant Mara 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 Mara, ultimately it will produce a sound of Ram Ram Ram. And this is what he did. When he did that, ultimately what happened? उसके मन में भक्ति जाग गई अपने आप से. उसका मन प्योर हो गया. And then he became the Maharishi Valmiki. He could write Ramayana sitting thousands of miles away where this Ramayana story was going on, because he was basically same time available. He was at the same time when Rama was there, when Rama was doing his lila and in Lanka and everything. He could see all that and he could write Ramayana. So this is the power of devotion. So what is written over here again is that even when there is a darkness in any, say, mountain cave, and when you light a lamp, the darkness immediately vanishes. So in the same way, when the light of knowledge lights in your heart, which was full of darkness, full of ignorance, it immediately becomes lighted. You gain that knowledge immediately. So this is the power of God devotion. And then whenever a person develops faith and devotion, his entire life changes and he turns away from worldly pleasures towards inner self. If you keep naphthalene balls in a cupboard, all your clothes gets protected from the insects. So same way, when you worship God with a dedicated mind, God protects his devotees from all evil thoughts. All the insects keep away. So that is the power, what you get. That such a devotee of mine, he says to Arjuna, is never destroyed. All his sins are destroyed, not in the fire of knowledge. And he never falls into the illusion of Maya again. So selfless devotion to God is the great mantra in this Kali Yuga. In fact, जो भगवान की निस्वार्थ भक्ति है, ये मानव जाति के लिए एक महामंत्र है. इसलिए इस भक्ति की इतनी महिमा भगवान ने कही है. तो भगवान आगे फिर 32 और 33 में कह रहे हैं कि whosoever takes refuge in me, he attains me. And he says in this verse दैट कोई भी मेरी शरण में आ जाए, चाहे वो किसी भी श्रेणी का हो, किसी भी निम्न श्रेणी का हो, तो whosoever, irrespective of their birth, their sex, caste or creed, and who are maybe physical laborers, even those, when they come to me, undoubtedly they also reach my supreme goal. Such is the greatness of path of devotion. इस श्लोक 32 में भगवान ने एक शब्द यूज किए हैं कुछ जो निम्न श्रेणी के हैं। उस निम्न श्रेणी में भगवान ने वोमेन, वैश्य एंड शूद्रास को भी इंक्लूड किया है। इफ यू रीड दैट श्लोक, आई विल जस्ट रीड। माम ही पार्थ व्यपाश्रित्य ये अपि स्यु पाप योनिया स्त्रियो वैश्य तथा शूद्रा ते अपि यान्ति पराम गतिम। तो इसका कई बहुत जो है कि कई बार अगेन गलत मतलब निकाला जाता है कि भगवान ने स्त्री और वैश्य और शूद्र को भी निम्न श्रेणी में इंक्लूड किया है, ये कैसे है। इसका सिर्फ एक ही पर्पस था, दैट कहने का भगवान का, कि सम पीपल उस टाइम में भी था कि स्त्रियों को जो है कि वुमेन को दे आर नॉट अलाउड टू डू पूजा और समथिंग लाइक दैट। सो दैट्स व्हाई ही सेड दैट नो वन इज डिबार्ड फ्रॉम माय डिवोशन provided he or she has developed true devotion to the Lord. Caste, creed, etc. has no concern, as of no concern for anyone to attain this knowledge. So he clearly states that all living entities are his children. Whosoever takes refuge in me, I accept them with open hands, with open arms. So this is what he has tried to clarify. फिर वो कहते हैं कि अगर जो निम्न श्रेणी के हैं, जो लेबरर्स हैं, जो छोटा मोटा काम कर रहे हैं, इफ दे कैन आल्सो अटेन मी एंड डू माई पूजा, देन व्हाट टू टॉक ऑफ दोज हु बिलोंगिंग टू, हु आर ऑफ किंग कैटेगरी और हायर कैटेगरी, और जो संत लोग हैं who do meritorious deeds, so what to talk of them। तो वो उनको तो जब कोई भी मेरी भक्ति करके इस मेरे परम धाम को, इस डिवाइन ब्लिस को पहुंच सकता है, सो सच इज द ग्रेटनेस ऑफ द पाथ ऑफ डिवोशन दैट एवरीवन इज एलिजिबल फॉर इट। ये नहीं कि ये आदिवासी है, ये लोअर कैटेगरी का है, उसके लिए भगवान की पूजा कई बार मंदिरों में आप उनको डिबार कर देते हैं। दिस इज ऑल नॉनसेंस। Nobody is debarred. So that's what he has said. Everybody is eligible for it. So, and when you get this human life is given to you only for this purpose, for this reason. That this human life, because the human life is very difficult to obtain. It's a lot of good work you must have done that you are in the human life. And that's why even the devtas, they also crave, they also desire to be in human life, so that they can correct their past mistakes of wishing for pleasures, and they can also then seek the highest path and attain paramdham and divine bliss. So एक ह्यूमन फॉर्म ही भगवान ने ऐसी दी है जिसमें भगवान, ये आदमी ऐसे कर्म कर सकता है कि जिससे वो भगवान को प्राप्त कर सकता है, and he can reach the paramdham. Now, so let's not be tempted by the superficial attraction of this delusory world, but seek the source of that. Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Bhagwan is Satyam Shivam Sundaram. We have to seek that source. Now we reach the last verse of this chapter, the verse 34. It's also a very important verse again. और उसके बाद इसको कंक्लूड करते हैं भगवान जी। वो कहते हैं, मन मना भव मद भक्तो मद्याजी माम नमस्कुरु मामे वैश्यसि युक्त वैवम आत्मानम मत प्रायना। भगवान कह रहे हैं, मद मन मना भव, मेरी भक्त, ऑलवेज थिंक ऑफ मी, सदाई मेरा चिंतन करो। मद भक्तो, बी माई डिवोटी। मद्याजी, वर्शिप मी, मेरी पूजा करो। माम नमस्कुरु, मेरे को नमस्कार करो, बो डाउन टू मी। दस uniting yourself with me by setting me as your ultimate goal, and the soul refuse, you shall certainly come to my Paramdham, from where you will not have to come into this cycle of birth and death. So with this verse, Bhagwan conclude this chapter. इसमें भक्ति की इतनी महिमा की गई है मेरे ख्याल में, क्योंकि भक्ति पर पहले भी प्रश्न पूछे जा चुके हैं और अभी भी होंगे कि भक्ति क्या है। तो ये एक बहुत ही, अभी भक्ति के ऊपर और भी व्याख्या आएंगी चैप्टर 12 के अंदर। तो ये एक बहुत ही इन्होंने जो है कि एक सिस्टमेटिक वे से भक्ति की महिमा को दर्शाया है। तो इसके साथ इसमें आगे जिसे भक्ति के बारे में मैंने कहा कि हम जो ये ओम जय जगदीश हरे की आरती गाते हैं, ये पूरा का पूरा इसमें भगवान की, इसमें पूरा ज्ञान भरा हुआ है इस आरती के अंदर भी। अगर आप गायत्री मंत्र उच्चारण करें और उसका अर्थ समझें तो मे बी इन आवर डिस्कशन में भी जो है कि आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट भीमसेन जी इफ यू कैन गिव द एक्सप्लेनेशन ऑफ इन वेरी सिंपल वे। एंड आई थिंक दिस वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि हम जब ये अपने डेली रिचुअल में आरती करते हैं, ये भी जो भोग आरती करते हैं, जो ओम जय जगदीश हरे करते हैं या गायत्री मंत्र पढ़ते हैं, इनका अर्थ पता होना बहुत जरूरी है। और सारा का सारा जो हमें एक ज्ञान का निचोड़ है इनमें मिल जाता है। तो with this I close my discussion today and open this house for discussion. So thank you very much. Today maybe I have taken a little longer time to complete it. So thank you very much for listening to me carefully. Thank you very much. Namaskar. भीम जी। किसी को
हाँ जी, नमस्कार जी। ब्रिज जी, आपने इतना सुंदर एक्सप्लेन किया है। ये हर रोज की हर बार जब आप करते हैं, इसके बारे में अब कहना ही नहीं चाहिए, क्योंकि आप इसको अपनी पूर्ण शक्ति और पूर्ण ज्ञान शक्ति से करते हैं। इस चैप्टर में पहले जो हमने गीता के चैप्टर देखे हैं, उसमें परमात्मा ने कर्म के ऊपर ज्यादा जोर दिया था। एक्चुअली वो कर्म अब छिपे हुए फॉर्म में आगे फॉर्म्स में भी आता है। ये पहले ये चैप्टर जो था